Now, before we get started, I did want everyone to know that there are clothes we can choose. And we got this, but we're gonna go with fancy. We could go with regular iris, but we're gonna go with idle iris. And then we're gonna go with Sholm's classic, but I just wanted everyone to know that this was Sholm's alternative costume. We're not gonna use that one because I wouldn't be able to take him seriously. But I just wanted you to know that's what we had. Anyway, let's go.
Standing here in the bright sunshine, looking out over the vast ocean. Those days in London seem like a dream. But I do miss my time in England's vast capital. You know, he's flourished into a truly wonderful lawyer. I've no doubt that at this very moment, he's fighting some noble cause in court. Forgive me for taking so long to come to visit you. My life has been such a whirlwind since I returned. And no one could have predicted what has happened. Just 2 months after arriving home.
I find myself faced with another awful crime. Oh shit. It's her again.
So I came here today to ask something of you. Tomorrow, I shall be standing in court. For the only time in my life. As a lawyer. So
Oh, she's the dead one.
I ask for your guidance. Kazuma-sama.
Are we gonna play as Sasato? That's cool. For the one case, or what? Well, the blossoming attorney kind of indicates more than once, but we'll see. Alright. What we got? Here I am again after 9 months. The Supreme Court of Judicature of Japan. I feel so nervous, but I must steel my nerves and find a way to compose myself. Oh, she's not dead. He's not dead. How good. How nice for him. Ah, good. You're here. It doesn't do for a lawyer to be late. Oh, yes. Good morning, sir. I hardly recognize you. You cut a fine figure, counsel. Do not say that about your own daughter, please. But you look as white as a sheet, and those wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Oh dear. The truth is, I am incredibly nervous. I feel utterly nauseated. I almost wish that I'd never been born. Goodness! Not the sort of thing a father hopes to hear from his daughter, I must say. Eugene Mikotoba, professor of medicine at the Imperial Yumei University, a man who, earlier in his life, traveled to Great Britain to study the latest advances in forensic medical science. And of course, my brilliant father. Excuse me. I see, you are the dirty crime girl? Would I be correct in thinking that you're to be my lawyer in court today? Oh, yes, that's right, miss. Well, I want to thank you for agreeing to represent me. I swear on my life, it's a complete fabrication, this whole thing. Rey Membami. Born the same year as I and my greatest friend. Though unusual for a woman in our time, she works at the University Research Laboratory helping my father. And sadly, she's the defendant in today's trial, accused of committing a truly awful murder. Are you feeling all right? Since we started talking, you seem, well, to have become a little flushed. Oh my, it's just that... You look so gallant and dashing. She's gay as fuck. Sorry? And when I fall under your intense gaze, it makes me feel rather bashful. Oh, she's super gay. Goodness, I don't think she knows. She hasn't realized who I am. It would seem our little plan for this trial is going to work. Oh, what do you mean, Professor Mikotoba? If even your best friend can't see through the disguise, I think we can relax. Disguise? Yes, I never tried dressing this way before, of course. Good thing we chose the second costume, or this would be weird. So I wasn't sure how convincing it would be. But this does make me feel a little relieved, as you say, Father. Father? What? Is that you, Sasato? I'm so sorry, I didn't say anything. No! What are you doing? What's going on? What? That varsity uniform, that varsity cap, that varsity cape, that varsity badge. Look at you. You look for all the world like a student of the Imperial Yamei University. A male student. Let's not get carried away. I'm so glad you think so. It means all my preparations have been worthwhile. I woke at 4 this morning to make a start. But I don't understand. Why are you dressed like that? Well, you see, it was the only way. The only way she would be permitted into the Supreme Court to take on your defense in this trial. My defense? Never before in my life had I felt so frustrated having been born into this body. Courts in Japan are barred to women, and we're not even allowed to set foot inside the courtroom, despite the fact that the laws of the land apply to all people, male and female alike. But women are forbidden. Just for today, I'll be leaving my true self at the courtroom door, so that I can act as your lawyer. Oh, Sasato, you'd go to such lengths for me. Of course, you're my greatest friend. Gay! I just worry that I shan't be the lawyer you deserve. Oh no, I have complete faith in you. Rey. It's so strange, though. I mean, you're such an accomplished judicial assistant already. And yet, because you're a woman, what a wretched reason. I mean, why shouldn't you be allowed in court? You're so gallant and dashing. Gay! Rey. Please don't look at me with that, with those flushed cheeks and doting eyes. Oh, I'm sorry, it's just, you really do look so dashing. Yes, you've mentioned that once or twice. You should be pleased. It means you look convincing as a man. Right. I am pleased, I think. It certainly helped to bolster my confidence today. Rey, you're managing to put on a brave face in all this, but I can see through it. I've noticed your shoulders are slumped and how you're trembling ever so slightly. Sasato, you do believe me, don't you? I didn't do it. I couldn't have. I mean, murder. Of course. You have nothing to worry about. Your conscience is perfectly clean. Isn't that right? Yes. Yes, it is. Perfectly clean. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind about your innocence, which is why I'll stand by you until the bitter end in this trial. Whatever happens, I'll always be on your side, because that's what it means to be a defense lawyer. That means so much to me, Sasato. Defendant, counsel, court is about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom. You should go in at once, Rey. If you're late, the judge won't hesitate to pronounce you guilty. Oh. Stand aside! Whoosh, there she go. I don't think I've ever seen her run so fast. Well, Sasato, you've certainly surprised your father, going to such lengths to be admitted into the courtroom and with no prior experience. There was simply no other way, that's all there is to it. But Father, you haven't told her, have you? I mean, I'm right in assuming Rey doesn't know how it came to this. Yes, quite right. I've kept that information from her. It would only worry her if she found out that no other lawyer would agree to take her case. I didn't want to burden her with that. And is it true, the reason why every other lawyer is refusing to take the case? Is it really because of who the victim was? Seems that way, yeah. We should be making a move now, too. As you know, law isn't my field, but I'll do what I can to support my student. Thank you, Father. Alright, lads. We finally got her in the end. Well, someone did anyway. I'm Susato Mikotoba, a judicial assistant. 8 months ago, I accompanied a student of law on a study trip to Britain. But 2 months ago, due to unforeseen circumstances, I found myself back in Japan. How many times I wished that he were here, I wonder. Still, I have no choice now but to steel myself for the trial ahead. Wish me luck, Naruhodo-san. Alright, bring out Winston. Bring him out. This court is now in session to hear the trial of Rey Membami. Oh, you're looking, you know, hideous. The prosecution is fully ready to proceed, Your Excellency. Yep, very convincingly a man, absolutely. Defense counsel, are you ready? Yes, Your Excellency, we are ready. Ready! Ah, yes, counsel. According to your registration details, your name is, Ryotaro Naruhodo. Is that correct? Sorry? Oh, yes, I had to come up with a suitable male name for you for this venture. I'm afraid I simply put down the first name that sprang to mind. Well, counsel. Yes, that's right. That's me. Yes, I'm Ryotaro. He who has vowed to uphold the pride of the great Naruhodo clan. Ah. It seems Ryotaro may need to consider how better to uphold his manly act first and not overdo it. And those wild, wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Just relax and listen. Naruhodo. A fresh face in this courtroom, if I'm not mistaken. But the name Naruhodo, would that perchance be? You may be thinking of Ryunosuke Naruhodo, currently in Britain as part of a study program. This is, his cousin. That's right, Ryotaro here has been studying in the provinces, but was called to the capital for this trial. I assure you, in matters of law, his knowledge rivals that of any of Tokyo's preeminent lawyers. Any of them? Tut, tut, tut. What a pitiful situation. Having been rejected by every lawyer in the capital, the accused had to call on a country boy. How dare you! Susato is every bit as gallant and as dashing as any of you Tokyo attorneys. I won't have you making fun of her. Her? Oh, please, be careful. What an unrefined tomboy we have here. But I wonder, is your gallant and dashing lawyer up to the challenge of defending you? His wide, skittish eyes very much suggest that he is not. Ugh, I'm so nervous. Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand what Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, eyes are wont to flit. The case to be heard on this day is a matter of great significance to our national interests. In fact, it would be reasonable to assume that the outcome of this trial may well affect the very future of our empire. Just like the trial 9 months ago. And yet for proceedings of such importance, we have this unknown yokel by the dock? Dear me. Perhaps this would be an appropriate moment for me to assess the defense, to determine whether you are sufficiently competent to practice in this courtroom. 9 months ago, when a certain other Naruhodo stood where you're standing now, this same judge tested him as well. And even though he was just a student at the time, not even of law, he passed the test with flying colors. For a trained and experienced judicial assistant like you, this will be easy. So, counsel, do you consent to answering some simple questions? Alright, time to prove myself. Yes, Your Excellency, but please make them simple. Very well. To start with, you will state the name of the victim. Whew, this is simple. I couldn't forget if I tried. What's the matter? Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand something else Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, minds are want to blank. It's not surprising, really. It's your first time in this position, and in that guise. Even a bright spark like you is bound to flicker and falter a little under the circumstances. Oh dear, this is a dismal failure. Don't fret. Oh, it's actually changed the text box to Ryotaro. Don't fret, you need only use the knowledge you've gained as a judicial assistant to overcome the problem. Of course, the court record. Yes, the answer will be amongst all the key information. That's right, it's tutorial time. Yes, flip to the people. Alright, that's okay. I'm waiting, counsel. What is the name of the victim? That would be... Oh, the name of the victim. It's Jezebel Brett.
Yes!
The name of the victim who lost her life in this case is Miss Jezebel Brett. So maybe I should not call her Jezebel the entire time this time. Jezebel Brett. Jezebel Brett. A name that will never be forgotten in the courtrooms of our country, I'm sure. Correct. And being a member of our empire's judiciary, you will be aware of the significance of that name. So, let me pose another simple question. As you know, Miss Brett was a visiting student from the Empire of Great Britain. Why, then, is her name indelibly associated with our own empire's judicial history? Obviously, you won't have forgotten that case from 9 months ago, but if it's proving hard to recall the finer points, everything you need is included in the court record. Obviously, I still remember. That was the start of everything. Jezebel Brett, behind the woman's was the face of a killer. Queen Victoria? 9 months ago, a visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yumei University was killed, and the culprit was Jezebel Brett. Yes, she was a killer. At the time, our country had just signed a new treaty with the Empire of Great Britain, and it was in the midst of this delicate diplomatic situation that the incident occurred. An Englishman, Dr. John H. Wilson, was shot dead. I believe he was an associate of yours, Professor Mikotoba. Yes, I was indebted to the man. He'd been my mentor when I went to London to study forensic medicine. Indeed, it was I who invited him here to Japan as a visiting professor at the university. Naturally, the murder of an Englishman on our soil was a matter the government wished to resolve rapidly. Indeed it was, which is why a secret trial was conducted here at the Supreme Court. A student of the Imperial Yumei University was arrested on suspicion of murder, a second-year English student by the name of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. With the help of his best friend, a student lawyer, the accused conducted his own defense and exposed the despicable crime committed by Miss Jezebel Brett. Miss Brett did eventually admitted to her crime. However, when questioned about the motive that drove her to take Dr. Wilson's life, she gave no satisfactory answer before the trial reached its conclusion. Immediately after the trial, the British government brought its consular jurisdiction into play. We were unable to sentence Miss Brett according to our empire's laws. It was decided that she would be removed to Shanghai, China, instead. Why Shanghai? There's a British consular court there. Correct. I oversaw the negotiations personally. The date of her transfer to Shanghai was finally settled upon only last week. All that remained of our empire's obligation was to see the woman safely on board a steamship. And yet, the very day before her departure, the Englishwoman was killed. Only the day before? That will do. I'm satisfied with the counsel for the defense is sufficiently capable of representing the defendant. Oh! Thank you, Your Excellency, over the first hurdle. Now, a summary of the incident, if you please. Prosecutor Ouchie. As is your wish, Your Excellency. The repugnant crime took place on the 11th of August in broad daylight. On the outskirts of the imperial capital under a bright blue sky at a secluded bathing spot by the sea. The incident occurred inside a small beach hut erected for bathers to rest or change their clothes. The case of death was a single stab wound to the posterior abdomen that pierced the victim's lung, an injury which proved fatal. There were 2 persons alone together in the beach hut at the time of the victim's death. Miss Brett, in her bathing attire, and the accused, Rey Membami. Accordingly, there can be no doubt of the accused's guilt, especially when we consider she had a powerful motive. The police arrived rapidly at the scene and promptly arrested the young lady. Well, that extraordinary description of events leaves me somewhat lost for words, I must say. That's certainly true. The prosecution's summary was full of words that raise an awful lot of questions. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up with the powerful motive. Bathing alone together is also, you know, we could go for that maybe, but what was the motive? You're clearly exaggerating. Powerful motive is a blatant overstatement. Tut, tut, tut. Is the yokel boy using long words he doesn't fully understand? I beg your pardon. No matter. Let us put this to the accused, shall we? Membami-san, you are a research assistant at the Imperial Yamei University, I believe. Yes, I am. I'm working with Professor Mikatoba in his laboratory. I can confirm that the defendant is an excellent assistant with a strong sense of responsibility. Fascinating to hear. Now, another question. Prior to your work with Professor Mikatoba, whose research were you assisting then? Oh, I was studying under John H. Wilson. Dr. Wilson? The visiting English professor who was murdered by Miss Brett? The accused had a deep-seated respect for her former mentor, Dr. Wilson. Is that not true? Yes, Dr. Wilson was a wonderful man. Interesting. Then tell the court what deep-seated feelings you had towards the Englishwoman who killed him. Well, obviously I was filled with hatred for what she'd done. A powerful hatred. Oh no, Rey. Be careful what you're saying. The motive was revenge. Plain and simple, Your Excellency. Well, it was clearly a trap all along. How wicked of him to use Rey's undying respect for her mentor against her like that. I must find out more details. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up... Yes, so... I mean, we're just gonna go through them all, I guess. Bathing alone together. Membami-san. Yes, what is it? Naruhodo-san. I'm really starting to wish we'd made my alias Ryotaro Sasato. Please tell the court why exactly you were present at the bathing spot with the victim, and why you were alone with her. Oh, well, no, that's not true. It wasn't like that at all. There were other people present, a detective who was guarding Miss Brett, for starters. I was asked to accompany Miss Brett as a companion, that's all. But let us be clear. At the moment of her death, you were alone together with the victim in the hut. You and no one else. The truth is, there is only one reason why this woman accompanied Miss Brett on her bathing sojourn. It was the accused's last chance to take the victim's life. No, because as we know, the following day would see Miss Brett extradited to the British authorities in Shanghai. And the accused would never have an opportunity to dispatch her again. Kindly refrain from conjecture, counsel. The prosecution's counsel seems to enjoy using provocative tricks like that, but for now at least we need to assemble more facts. Try not to let him goad you. Oh dear, this is terrifying, but Father's right, we need more. Yes, the bathing spot. If I may, Prosecutor Ouchie. What do you want, you fresh-faced young yokel student? I wonder, could you explain, please? You mentioned a bathing spot. Ha! My apologies. Clearly my modernity has confused the poor country bumpkin's simple mind. Bathing spots are the very latest trend in health practices from the West. We are told that bathing in the water of the ocean is curative, therapeutic, and excellent for the skins. No, that's not what I meant. I was referring to the fact that Miss Brett had, to all intents and purposes, been found guilty of murder. Why would a known criminal have been relaxing by the sea? For old time's sake, I believe. Sorry? Miss Brett was to depart for Shanghai the following day. Her final wish, as it were, was to enjoy a day at our country's wonderful coast. And the British Embassy put extreme pressure on our government to comply. But on what grounds would we agree? Because, as usual, our government is unable to stand up to foreign powers. In matters of diplomacy, it seems we don't even have the courage to decline the whims of a known criminal. Don't look at me, Professor. It was the government who granted position, not I. In any case, it was decided that with a dedicated detective on duty, nothing could go wrong. But in fact, a murder took place. I said don't look at me. It was that young student girl who did it, not I. No one has proved that yet. I wouldn't provoke the man if you don't need to. I believe we have a clear picture of the incident now. Despite her guilt being determined 9 months ago, Miss Brett managed to avoid incarceration, instead continuing her research work. Obviously, over that period, she and Rey would have encountered each other on a number of occasions. Seeing the murder of the mentor for whom she had such great respect enjoying such undeserved liberty. Yes, even if it was only temporary until Miss Brett's extradition to Shanghai, you can hardly blame Rey for her feelings of anger and resentment. Poor Rey. So, Your Excellency, if you'd be so kind as to peruse this exhibit, a photographic print that shows the scene of the crime immediately following the grim incident. Let's see, we got anything obviously stand out as strange yet? I mean, she's clutching a pen. But nothing else stands out exactly. I do like how she has various masks. As you can clearly see, there is nowhere within the hut that anyone else could have hidden. The court will accept this photographic print as evidence. As I understand it, then, the victim and the defendant were alone inside the beach hut. This is deeply troubling, I must say. The finger of guilt points firmly at the defendant. Well, Your Excellency, naturally the prosecution has much more to its case. We intend to prove the accused's appalling actions beyond all possible contention. To that end, I can confirm we have multiple witnesses to the crime and damning evidence. Witnesses? But who? One of whom, I might add, is a highly respected police detective. I assure you the testimony of these witnesses will leave no room for doubt. Very well then, counsel. Bring forth your witnesses. I, Taketsuchi Ouchi have been waiting for this moment. Sorry. Oh, yes, I haven't forgotten that trial 9 months ago here in this very courthouse, when that irreverent little student boy utterly humiliated me. Ah, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Why, yes. This insult to the Ouchi family name will never be forgotten. You've been conceited with age council, but the old have to stand aside. It's the way of the world. Sliced. Get fucked. Strike the head of a samurai whose top knot has been cut and the bell of cultural enlightenment tolls. Yes, on that fateful day my former self died. The start of your own mini Meiji revolution. Are you modernizing as well, Council? Silence! Since I swore revenge back then, there has been a minor miracle atop my head. Observe the ouchy growth. You see this seed of hope sprouting forth from the barren expanse of my crown. Aren't you going to be embarrassed at the end of this trial? I think that tiny growth is trying to tell me something. I'm afraid I can't really see. Where is the hope exactly? I said silence! Today I face another yokel student of the Naruhodo clan. Well, I will vanquish you, and my victory will be the fertilizer for the seed of hope atop my head. You have been warned. With that, the prosecution calls the witnesses to the stand. It looks like the stakes are high on both sides. The prosecution and the defense each have much to lose. A haircut is hardly comparable to Rey's life. Oh, fucking hell, dude. Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga, Imperial Police Bureau. I'm in disguise, obviously, so I can go undetected.
And I am, well, the next big thing in books. An author renowned throughout the capital, in fact, yes. Soon to be sold out, the satirical I Am a Cat, a sensational success by Soseki Natsume.
Oh my goodness.
Struggling student from the provinces, please. You needn't be in awe of me.
I needn't?
It's only natural that you'd feel nervous in my presence, but all of you, please, relax. Call me Soseki, even.
Yes. What on earth is Soseki-san doing here? Tread carefully, Sosato. That author fellow knows you from your time in London, doesn't he? If he exposes you for who you really are, this will be over before it's begun. Yes, of course, I know. I presume Soseki-san won't have forgotten about me. I could certainly never forget him. Although he does seem to have changed somewhat in the 6 or so months that it's been since I saw him. And as for Hosonaga, that amazing outfit is hard to believe. I love the turtle in particular. Do I have something on my face? Well, your glasses for one, although they don't seem to be helping you see. Thank goodness he hasn't recognized me either. Ah, I suppose it's this disguise, is it? I thought that appearing here in the clothes I was wearing at the time would make for a more faithful testimony. It is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Well, I can appreciate why an Imperial Police Bureau detective might have been present, but what business did a writer such as yourself have being at the scene, Soseki-san?
Well, you see, I had been asked that day to give a lecture on the morning of the incident in the Imperial Yume University's Grand Lecture Hall, no less.
At Yume University?
After the lecture, I had a very pleasant conversation with a researcher from the medical science department. The professor over there, in fact.
With my father, with Professor Mikotoba? Yes, that's right. It was arranged by one of the newspapers. They wanted some story or other about 2 former students who studied in Great Britain.
Of course, being a renowned author, the press never leave me alone. They secretly spy, snapshots, scribble stories, and scupper my pirate privacy. As you can see, the conversation was written up in this newspaper here. Read it at your leisure, my provincial struggling student friend. I have plenty of copies.
Thank you very much. He practically threw that at me. Alright, let me have a gander at that, if I might be permitted. Oh, he's jamming out, huh? Can't actually examine anything, but, you know, good to know. Good to know he's got a cat again. My man do be dabbing, though, don't he?
Anyway, following my interview with the professor, the lady in question appeared and made a very unexpected announcement. I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. Those were her words.
As I explained before, Miss Brett was never taken into custody. She continued to work in my laboratory under strict surveillance, of course.
At which utterance, the university immediately contacted the government to seek guidance. And the response was, permit Miss Brett to go as long as a detective accompanies her.
That detective, I am at liberty to divulge, was me, Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga.
Thereby, the entire party departed cordially for the seaside, it seems.
It was extremely challenging to clear all other members of the public from the vicinity of the beach. But fortunately, I am at peak physical fitness at the moment, so I was able to carry out my duty flawlessly. Oh my, Inspector, well, you do have something on your face now. Ah, how unsightly. I do apologize. Does that mean that you went to the beach too, Father? No. Fortunately, I had work to finish off, but unfortunately, of course, it meant that as my assistant, Rey was invited to take my place.
Of course, being a renowned author, I didn't like to decline the invitation. But if only I had, I'd never have seen that awful sight. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret.
Very well, I must now ask you to present your formal testimony. You will give an account of all that you witnessed on your impromptu excursion to the coast. Of course, Your Excellency.
Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret I am.
On the day of the incident, I was ordered on a special surveillance assignment in this disguise.
I'd just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwaul from behind me.
I ran into the beach hut at once, where I found the pair in question.
Yes, the young girl was astride the Englishwoman, dagger in hand, as she stabbed wildly.
I saw blood on the blade. It proved to me that she had stabbed the victim multiple times. Indeed. Hold on. Did she actually get stabbed multiple times? Only a single wound. Got him. Indeed, it does appear from this testimony that both witnesses here present saw it, the very moment of this heinous crime.
Now, if you will recall, I promised evidence as well. What phrase did I use again? Ah, yes, that was damning evidence.
What have you there, Counsel? A so-called fountain pen, is it? Correct, Your Excellency. I found it at the scene whilst examining the body. It appears that in her dying moments, with her final ounce of strength, the victim clutched a piece of evidence that would positively identify her killer. What?
Your Excellency, if you would cast your eyes over the photographic print of the crime scene once more.
Ah, goodness me.
Yes,
The victim is clearly grasping something quite deliberately there. That's right, the fountain pen. And if you would kindly examine the pen, Your Excellency. Ah! The owner's initials have been engraved into the ebonite barrel. R.M. Rey Membami. The initials of the defendant. Ah, no. This fountain pen will be admitted immediately as critical evidence. I should like to examine the pen. I cannot yet examine the pen.
So, have I omitted anything? Decisive testimony and damning evidence. There's a bright blue sky outside the courthouse today. Perfect weather to ascribe guilt, I feel.
I don't understand. The prosecutor outed you of 9 months ago. Had none of this man's poise. Let's not get carried away. Counsel for the defense, you may begin your cross-examination now. Naruhodo, Cyan. Naruhodo. That means... Oh, yes, me! Is there another Naruhodo in my courtroom? Actually, there isn't even a single Naruhodo. Cousin Ryotaro, pull yourself together, please. Alright. I've seen this countless times as a judicial assistant, finding inconsistencies in the witness testimony to prove they're lying. That's all there is to it. That's how a real lawyer. I have already pinpointed the exact thing I wish to go for. Go across all the way. That she'd stabbed the victim multiple times. Incorrect. Cast your eyes. With that accusatory cry that just welled up from deep inside me, I think I finally understand. Every time Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san have stood here at this bench, the stakes have been very, very high indeed.
What's the meaning of that menacing pose, counsel?
I'd like the witness to clarify something for me.
Who? What? Where? When? How?
Not you, Soseki-san. This query is directed at Inspector Hosonaga. At me? In your statement just now, you said that the victim was stabbed multiple times. Yes, that's right. As I said when I entered the hut, the defendant was already standing over the victim, bloody knife in hand, like a murderous demon. And yet, that cannot be. What? Get to the point, please, counsel. In the post-mortem report, it clearly states that the victim was stabbed one time only. Ah. In other words, Inspector Hosanaga's testimony is clearly flawed. Ah! And Soseki-san.
Me?
You claim to have seen Membami-san in the throes of stabbing the victim.
Yes, I did. Wildly.
But both you and the inspector confirmed the same point, that there was already blood on the knife that you saw the defendant holding. Yes, and... It's quite simple. We know the murder weapon was used to stab the victim only once. Therefore, there is no way there could have been blood on the knife if that single stabbing hadn't already occurred.
Ah, true.
Then what exactly is your contention, counsel? Are you ever going to tell us? Yes, Your Excellency, there's only one logical conclusion. What Soseki-san, in fact, saw was not the moment the defendant stabbed the victim at all, but the moment that the defendant, in fact, withdrew the blade from the victim's body.
That can't be.
Excellent work, Sosata. You exploded at them with that objection, and then proceeded to pull them apart.
Tush, Well, this takes me back. Yes, I seem to remember your cousin staged a scene much like this in the trial 9 months ago. A half-witted child with a half-baked objection attempting to steal the show.
You're right, there were similarities. Except that so-called half-witted child managed to outwit the prosecution, who has only half a head of hair.
Slander! My head is quite adequately dressed. In any case, all this talk of stabbing and withdrawing and multiple wounds, it makes not a jot of difference.
What? Why not?
Engage your brain, young man. When the accused first plunged the deadly weapon into the victim, that was the fatal blow. And it was that moment, just as she had withdrawn the blade ready for her next strike, that the witnesses saw. The knife was already tainted with blood because the accused had already stabbed the victim. All you have successfully shown with your little display is that the mustachioed author is prone to moments of extravagance.
Uh-huh. this was a predictable blowback. I am in agreement with the prosecution. If the defendant was seen wielding the blade at all, that is sufficient grounds for her actions to be viewed with suspicion. But what if she was withdrawing the blade?
Then we are back to where we started. Sorry. Consider this, young yokel boy. If the student girl is as innocent as you claim, then why would she have pulled the blade from the victim, and with a demon's cold-blooded composure, too? The prosecution demands an explanation, and it had better be good.
Why did Rey pull out the knife? Ah, yes, going for the jugular. What does Father mean by that? Let the court hear your answer, then, counsel. The truth is, I don't really know, but I have to come up with a plausible reason or we don't have a case. The reason was so she could save her life. According to the post-mortem report, the victim's death was not instant. That's correct. It's thought that, though, taking the knife out is not usually helpful, but, you know, that's correct. It's thought she would have remained conscious for a short while after sustaining. I just remembered this story I had seen. This is a bit of a segue, but I had seen this story that was about a, it was about somebody who was training to be an emergency responder, so he was going with the ambulance crew to this, and they had found it was a stabbing incident, and the guy who was learning, unprompted, just took the knife out of the guy, so the EMT went, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he fucking put the knife back in again after he had taken it out. Needless to say, he won't be working in medicine again, but absolutely incredible. Made the first blunder, took the knife out of the wound. Second, oh fuck, I've already fucked up. Stabs him again. Yeah, that seemed like the appropriate response. Fucking idiot. Anyway. Indeed, giving her the time to take hold of this piece of evidence that clearly indicates her killer. The point is, being a medical research assistant, Membami-san should have known better than to take the knife out of the victim, really, but was compelled to act when faced with the wounded victim. Instinctively, she pulled the blade out in an attempt to save Miss Brett's life, which would have only made matters worse, though maybe we don't know that at this point in time. It looks like we know at this point in time. Did you hear that, Your Excellency? It would seem this is the best we can expect of this young yokel. Indeed. Is it just me, or does it suddenly feel much colder? Your Excellency, if I may. Speak, witness. I would like another opportunity to testify. In respect to the slipshod assertion just put forward by the Yokel Defense Council, I mean. Slipshod? Tish. An excellent idea, Inspector. Our young yokel, hopeful, has a modicum of knowledge when it comes to law. But in matters of medicine, he appears to possess not one iota of common sense. We know that we shouldn't have taken the knife out of the victim. Very well, Inspector, I will permit your request. You will testify again before the court on the subject of the Defense Counsel's assertion. Yes, I will do so flawlessly.